6:31. And as people join on the call, we'll just ask them to mute themselves, or we'll have our tech team to mute the people coming in. But hi, my name is Camille Jones. I'm a Cobb County resident. I've been living in this area for over 20 years, and I'm excited to be hosting these meet and greets to bring some of our local candidates to the people and to the voters. We are in a different time in which a lot of these town halls and meet and greets and events that a lot of organizations would host would be in person. But Nichelle and I were very committed to our Cobb County community and making sure we have are connecting, like I said, the local candidates to the actual voters. So with that, I do want Judge Kellie Hill just to introduce herself a little bit to those on the call and just share some of your thoughts about the upcoming election.
Okay, first let me start by thanking both Camille and Nichelle for doing this. We all have kind of had to adjust, and having this opportunity to still address the voters is something that I truly appreciate. So thank you both for doing this. And I'm going to give a brief introduction because this really is a meet and greet. So I want to have an opportunity to answer some of your questions. And a lot of what I would probably tell you in the introduction will come out when you ask questions. So let me just tell you briefly that I am a Cobb County resident. I've been here in Cobb County now for the past 30 years. My husband and I live here. We raised our 2 children here. They both were born here in Cobb County. This is our home. This is our neighborhood. And we moved to Cobb 30 years ago. I finished school where I graduated with an undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania. My undergraduate degree was in international relations and a concentration in international business. When I finished Penn, I then went to law school at Rutgers University, at Rutgers Law School in Newark, New Jersey. I finished law school and moved to Cobb, so that's been 30 years. And I started my professional career here in Cobb County. This is where I've practiced the entire time. I practiced in Fulton County, I practiced in DeKalb County, and I've always lived in Cobb County. This is home. Currently, I am serving as a judge on our magistrate court bench. I've been a judge since 2016, and I am currently a candidate for our Superior Court seat to run for the vacancy that will be left open when Superior Court Judge Lark Ingram retires at the end of the year. This election is ongoing now. Some people are actually voting via absentee ballot as we speak. Early voting starts next Monday in person, and the actual election is on June 9th. So I'm really appreciative to have this opportunity to introduce myself to you all, to answer your questions. I truly appreciate you taking time to come out and learn more about me, and I'm really excited to move forward and answer questions tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, Judge Hill, for being here with us. And for sharing a little bit about yourself. So now we're going to start the moderated portion of the meet and greet, just to ask you a couple of questions so we know a little bit more about you and your platform.
Okay.
So the first question that we want to know is, what is the role of the Superior Court, and how does the decisions made by this court affect our community at large?
Okay, well, let me start by telling you that the Superior Court is the highest trial level court that we have here in our state. It's the court that has jurisdiction over felony criminal matters, such as your murders, your rapes, armed robberies, aggravated assaults, child molestation, those matters that are considered your more serious crimes. And although state court primarily handles the misdemeanors in our county, in some instances, Superior Court may also deal with misdemeanors, especially if they are connected to a felony offense. Superior Court also handles domestic matters, such as your custody cases, support cases, adoptions. We handle real estate matters, business litigation, and any other tort case that might come through. Again, state court will handle a lot of your civil business litigation, and magistrate court will also handle civil litigation matters, depending on the jurisdictional limits or the amount of damages that one is asking for. However, Superior Court is the court that can hear any of those civil matters, notwithstanding the amount of damages in the case. That's just a bit of what Superior Court does. And as you can see, subject matters that are covered in Superior Court is quite diverse. Decisions made by Superior Court judges can and will have lasting impacts on individuals who come into that court in criminal and in civil matters. Judges in the Superior Court decide whether or not an individual is going to be granted a bond on those serious felonies that I just told you about, and whether or not that individual will have the privilege of spending time outside of jail while they wait for the matter to be resolved, or whether or not that individual will remain in custody until the matter is resolved. That decision is made by a Superior Court judge. Superior Court judges also decide what evidence will lawfully come in to a jury and what evidence will not lawfully come into a jury. Superior Court judges preside over the trials of those cases. And then ultimately, if there's a conviction, the Superior Court judge will impose the sentence. And unless discretion is taken from the judge by a mandatory minimum sentence that must be imposed, the judge is the one who will fashion the sentence after hearing and presiding over the facts of the case. In our civil arena, Superior Court judges, again, as I said, will hear divorce cases. Superior Court judges decide whether or not one party or both parties will have custody of the children, whether or not one party will have to pay support to the other, the amount of child support that is issued in a case, whether or not an individual will be granted a protective order if they need the protection of the courts. Superior Court judges decide whether or not an individual's probation will be revoked. So these are all extremely important matters that come into our Superior Courts on a daily basis. And it's why it's important to pay attention to who fills the seats on the Superior Court. And most people, quite frankly, don't know who the judges are. And you don't pay attention to who the judges are until, God forbid, an individual has to show up in court or someone that they love has to show up in court. And then all of a sudden it is important to know who that judge is and what that judge's judicial philosophy is. And so again, that's why I appreciate this opportunity tonight to share some of my philosophy with you all.
All right. So now thinking about all those roles that you mentioned that the Superior Court handles, what experiences and roles have you had in the past that have prepared you to take on this position?
Okay, so we'll start with the roles. My roles have been that as a judge as well as an attorney. And I've been a judge since 2016. I sit on the magistrate court bench, and I told you some of the things that we do in magistrate court when I indicated that we handle small claims, civil litigation cases. We handle evictions. We perform weddings. We also hear cases and decide whether or not a warrant will be issued in a civilian matter where the police aren't necessarily called out to a location, but one individual has asked for another individual to be arrested and a warrant issued. Well, we conduct those hearings. We also hear bond hearings. And in my capacity, I'm one of 3 magistrate court judges who actually has assisting Superior Court orders, which means I sit as a Superior Court judge as needed. And since 2016, I've done that on a weekly basis. I hear the bond matters on those serious felony cases that I went over before. I decide whether or not bond is granted or whether bond is denied. I also preside over our temporary protective order calendar. I decide whether or not to issue a protective order for a period of 12 months. I make decisions on custody. I make decisions on whether or not someone will have to leave the marital home. I make decisions on child support. These are all matters that I hear in my capacity as a Superior Court judge. I'm also the judge who presides over our MCS calendar. MCS is a task force that primarily deals with your high volume drug trafficking cases. And I handle those cases from beginning to end. I preside over the trials, and I actually impose the sentence when and if there's a conviction in those matters. So I've been sitting as a Superior Court now on a temporary basis as needed, and I'm ready to go forward on day one as a judge when elected to the Superior Court. So that's what I've done as a judge. The other role that I had was that as an attorney. I was a trial attorney for 25 years prior to taking the bench. My 25 years of experience includes working as a prosecutor. I worked in Fulton County. I worked in DeKalb County. I did misdemeanor work for the first 3 years of my career, and then I went to the district attorney's office where I actually handled felony cases. Over my career as a prosecutor, I was a supervisor where I supervised several other trial attorneys in both Fulton and DeKalb counties. I was the director of public integrity, which is the unit that handles allegations of wrongdoing by individuals who have a fiduciary duty to the citizens, your police officers, your lawyers, politicians, anyone who was accused of wrongdoing. Those matters came to me in my capacity as the director of public integrity. In Fulton County, anytime there was an officer-involved shooting, whether or not an individual was hit or whether a tire of a car was hit, that came to me for a review. And I did an independent investigation, and I either cleared it, saying that it was a justified shooting, or I found that it was perhaps a violation of an administrative policy, and then would send that back to the specific agency to be dealt with, or I would make recommendations to that agency on what they needed to implement as a policy to keep such an incident from happening in the future. And then in those rare cases, there were times when we took cases to the grand jury. And there were cases where we got indictments against individuals, and I prosecuted those cases. I'll mention one. It was the shooting case of Katherine Johnston. She was the 93-year-old woman who was shot and killed in Atlanta on Neal Street several years ago now. And she was shot by City of Atlanta police officers, where those officers wrongly got a warrant from a judge and based on false information. And as a result, Ms. Johnston was shot and killed. And I was a prosecutor who actually took that case to trial and handled it in Fulton County. In addition to being the director of public integrity, I was the chief trial assistant district attorney in DeKalb County, where I supervised all the attorneys assigned to superior court divisions, as well as those attorneys who were assigned to your special units, your special victim cases, your homicide cases. I supervised those individuals. In addition to that, I worked in the civil arena. And one other case that I didn't mention, but I guess I should, as a prosecutor, I led the prosecution team in the Fulton County courthouse shooting case against Brian Nichols. And again, that happened several years ago. But I say that to make it clear that I'm not a stranger to the courtroom. Superior Court is where I spent the majority of my career. In the civil arena, I was the managing attorney in a personal injury law firm where we handled wrongful death cases and Section 1983 cases, which are civil rights violation cases. I was the managing attorney in that firm. And I also had my own private practice where I did criminal defense work as well as domestic work. And that was here in Cobb County. I worked as a consultant to our law enforcement, specifically to the Georgia Association of Sheriffs, where I went and did a training for them on the use of force. And again, the use of force was the area of expertise that I had because of the public integrity unit work that I did. The majority of my work has been spent in Superior Court. In addition to that, I was an adjunct law professor where I taught trial advocacy to law students on the mechanics of trial. So again, I'm the candidate that is uniquely qualified and ready to take the bench and ready to handle the citizen's business on day one as a Superior Court judge. So that's just my roles and some of the experience that I have that makes me qualified for this specific position.
Right, I'm sure that's just a sneak peek, but I definitely want to appreciate you even giving context as to what are the roles of a Superior Court judge and what are some of the possible work that you would be in charge of, as well as your past experience and how that aligns to what you're running for. Our next question is, just in general, why should people vote for you? So in addition to you're very qualified and your experience, why else should people vote for you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is in my race, I am the only candidate who has the experience, and I am the only candidate with a proven record. And I say that because people can tell you what they will do, but until you have sat on the bench and you've had to make those tough decisions, you don't know what you will do. I have a record. I have the experience. I also am committed to the integrity of the process in our system, meaning I am committed to making sure that all parties get a fair and impartial hearing, that all parties are heard by the judge, and that I, as the judge, will do what is right at all times according to the law and according to our Constitution. And in those instances where I have discretion, because I am a wife, because I am a mother, and because I've lived long enough to know that sometimes people end up in court due to their own specific circumstances. They're not violent, however, they have violated the law. And in those cases, I will dispense justice with compassion, meaning I'm going to hold people accountable for violating the law. However, I'm going to try and get to the root of the problem as to why they are in the courtroom, which means if there's an underlying substance abuse problem, if there is a mental health issue that needs to be addressed, I will try and fashion a sentence that will address those underlying issues. I can hold those individuals accountable and try and get to the root of the problem. And I will monitor it through probation in the hopes that that individual will be able to successfully get the treatment that they need, not return to the system, and thereby reduce the recidivism rate of people coming back into the system. Now, on the other hand, if we have individuals who are dangerous, that we are afraid of, that don't need to be on our streets, I will make the decision to remove them from our streets. That is what I need to do as a judge, and that is what I will do as a judge. And so I believe that people should vote for me because I'm not a one-trick pony. I mean, I've got a diverse background, and I've been doing this. My background runs deep. It's not surface. I've been in the trenches. I've made the tough decisions. I'm not a paid advocate. I don't go into court with just one side of the story. I sit on the bench. I listen to both sides of the stories. And I make those tough decisions. I decide on a weekly basis who gets the children. I decide on a weekly basis who has to pack up and move out of the marital home. I decide on a weekly basis who's going to prison or who's going to remain in jail, who's going to be given a second chance, who's going to have their probation revoked. These are decisions that I've been making since 2016. These are decisions that I make deliberately and soberly. I do not take it for granted because I understand the impact that the decisions that I will make can have on an individual's life. And I treat it and respect it in that regard. So those are some of the reasons that I believe people should vote for me. I'm not just telling you what I will do as a Superior Court judge. I am showing you by my record some of the things that I've done, and I can tell you when elected, I can do even more. And that is what I'm asking the citizens of this county to do by voting for me.
Excellent. And we have one more question from the moderators, and then we will transition into Q&A from the attendees. So if you have questions, you can type them in the chat. We also have like a raise your hand feature, or you can just indicate that you want to speak and ask Judge Kellie Hill a question directly. But our last moderated question is, what is your vision for Cobb County and for the Cobb County justice system?
Okay. So I'm going to speak primarily towards the Cobb County justice system because the commissioners kind of decide what the Cobb County vision is. But in the role of Superior Court judge, it is my vision for our Cobb County judicial system or justice system to be one where our county has a bench in the Superior Court that reflects the values and the perspectives of our entire community. Here in Cobb, we are fortunate. We have a very well-regarded bench. We have a very, very well-regarded bar. Those are the judges and the lawyers. And my vision is to add to that by bringing my experiences and my perspectives that are unique to the table. Additionally, I envision developing procedures that will utilize some of the technology that we've all been forced to use over these last few months since we've been sheltering in place. Technology by no means can replace the need for lawyers and parties to show up in court. However, technology can be utilized in some instances to make the time that people spend in court more effective and more efficient. And I would like to develop and implement systems that allow us to utilize technology more when it comes to the courts. And another thing that I would like to do would be to establish and implement programs that focus on youthful offenders and first-time offenders when they come through the courts, perhaps through mentoring programs or some other programs that will, again, help deal with some of the underlying issues that cause those people to be in my particular courtroom at a particular time. I will continue to be involved in the community so that people don't just see me when they have to come to court, or people don't just see me during a campaign season. I'm active in the community now. I will remain active in the community. I will continue to preside over mock trials for our high school students, as well as our middle school students. I will continue to participate in career days for students at all levels. I will make sure that I participate in and continue to be active in our civic organizations, in our community organizations, in our fraternal and sorority organizations. I want people to know that they have judges on the bench who are part of the community. And I envision a Cobb justice system that reflects the values and participates in the Cobb County community at large. That's just a bit of what I envision as part of our Cobb County judicial system.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that. Just real quick, before we get into audience question and answer portion, how do we stay connected with you?
Okay, let's see, you can stay connected with me several ways. You can go to my website, and if you can see the sign here, my website is www.electjudgekellyhill.com, and Kellie is spelled Kellie. www.electjudgekellyhill.com. You can send me an email. My email address is info@electjudgekellyhill.com. That's INFO @electjudgekellyhill.com. You can give me a call. I get calls all the time and people say, oh, I expected to get someone else. You're gonna get me. And you can call me, 404-470-3364. That's 404-470-3364. My mailing address is the Committee to Elect Judge Kellie Hill at Post Office Box 168, Marietta, Georgia, 30061. That's P.O. Box 168, Marietta, Georgia, 30061. You can go on Facebook and please do, and please like us at Judge Kellie Hill. Twitter handle is @Kellie, the number 4 Cobb. So it's Kellie for Cobb. And Instagram is @Judge_Kellie_Hill. Please stay connected. Join our pages. I'm going to invite you to join me tomorrow if you have time at 5 o'clock. I will be participating in a judicial forum where you'll have an opportunity to see both of the candidates in my race. And that will be on the Stonewall Bar's Zoom page or Zoom account. If you have time, please join me tomorrow. I will post that link and any upcoming events on our social media pages. Please stay connected. Please, when you vote, don't stop at the top. I know the presidential candidates will be at the top, but I'm asking you to continue down the ballot, go to the judicial races towards the end. And if you don't vote in any other race, I'm going to ask you to please vote in the race for Superior Court to replace Judge Lark Ingram. You're going to see my name. I'm at the top of the ballot in that particular race. And I'm going to ask you to vote for the candidate who is at the top of the hill, and that's Kellie Hill for Superior Court Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Camille, where do you? So,
okay. Yes, at this time, we'll take any audience questions. I know there aren't any in the chat box, but if there are any general questions, either about the position she's running for or about her experience that you would like to know a little bit more about, we are still taking some questions.
and if you don't have any or think of any later, she gave you all of her information. So you could call her up, email her, visit Facebook, and all her social media handles.
Do we have any?
Oh, we have some hands raised. All right, so I see Brandy H.
Thanks, Michelle. And personally, thank you, Judge Hill. As a fellow Cobb County resident and Jersey girl, I really
appreciate.
Hi, how are you? Besides our vote, how else can we support you and also educate our residents and neighbors about the issues that impact us as Black Cobb County residents?
Thank you for that question, Brandy, because this environment has been a little challenging to get the message out. So I appreciate you asking. The first thing would be to reach out to your own contacts that are here in Cobb County, either via text message, email, and I can send you a basic letter that you can send out to your email blast. Please, if you know individuals who can and are able to contribute to the campaign, that's an opportunity for me to be able to get the message out via direct mail. And they can actually contribute online. There's a link to donate on the electjudgekellyhill.com site. If there's an opportunity for us to meet, I have push cards. If you'd like to give out push cards, I can get those to you. We're currently making phone calls. As many people as I can get on the phones to help get that message across would be helpful. Anything you can do. Anybody who is registered to vote in Cobb County is eligible to vote in this election. And by the way, today is the last day to register for this election. So anything that you can do to help reach out to the community at large. If you are a member of an organization, if you attend church somewhere and there's an opportunity for me to submit a video, or an opportunity for me to submit information on my campaign, or an opportunity for me to join a virtual platform and actually share my platform with individuals that you are connected to. If you would share that with me, I will try and join as well. That's just, to name a few ways that you can help. Anything that you can do to help us reach the Cobb County voters is welcomed and appreciated. So thanks for that question. And where are you from in Jersey?
So I grew up in Hillsborough, which is central Jersey, about 15 minutes from Princeton. So a lot of friends that went to Rutgers as well, and UPenn.
I was gonna say, that's right in the middle of Rutgers and Penn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for your question, Brandy.
All right, so there was another hand raised. April, do you have a question?
Oh, hi everyone. That was pretty much my question and it was answered. So I was like, let me just lower my hand.
Okay.
But I will say that my oldest son, Justin, he's 12 years old, and he mentioned yesterday, when he's been mentioning that he wants to be a lawyer and a judge. And he actually walked past and saw your face, and he was like, "Oh, is she a judge?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, that is so cool to see a Black woman." Well, he really said someone like me that's a judge. So I think that he'll probably connect with you soon. But that was my question.
So let me just say this, April. When I was about 13 years old in New Jersey, I met our first African-American Superior Court judge. Her name was Shirley Tolentino. When I met Judge Tolentino, I had the same reaction. It was, oh wow, I want to do that. I wrote about Judge Tolentino in my essay to get into undergraduate college. So I know and I understand the impact that being on the Superior Court bench could have on young children, young girls, young African Americans who can see someone who looks like them or someone who they can identify with one way or the other. That is huge. And I willingly accept the role model opportunity. If I can mentor in any way a young child or a young adult, I am always happy to do that. I've had a high school intern, I've had a law school intern, and I take it very seriously to be as involved as I possibly can to help individuals see what they can do and then decide that they're going to do it or that it's not for them. But I think that's the only way they can answer that question. So thank you, April. And again, if you want to participate, you just reach out to me and I can get you busy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And we have an audience member that left a comment that says that if Judge Hill is elected, it will be historical because there has never been an African American in that seat. So that's also exciting to that point.
Yes, thank you. That's true. And again, it's just a matter of perspective. We all have unique experiences in life, and our experiences are sometimes dictated by our race, our gender, and I will bring a different perspective to the bench, and I look forward to doing that.
All right. So any last questions or thoughts?
There is a question and comment in the chat. It says, so proud to know you and thankful we have become friends, Judge Hill. My kids would like to know what drew you to our community. So what brought you to Cobb County?
Well, it's interesting. When I first came to Cobb County, I visited only for 5 days and stayed with a friend who lived in Norcross. I rented a car, learned my way around. This was back in the ice ages. So at the time, Buckhead was like the place to be. And quite frankly, I said, oh, when I finish school, I'm gonna move to Atlanta and I'm gonna get a place in Buckhead. Mm-hmm. And then I got here and just started looking around, and as luck would have it, the apartment that I found was in Cobb County. It was in Smyrna. And I moved into that apartment. At the time, it was called Post Village. I don't know what it's called now, but it's where the big clock tower is, right off of 41.
Yeah, we lived there too.
it was great because Target was right across the street, mm-hmm. and I could walk across the street to Target. And 285 was right there. It was just very convenient. It was a great place to live. It was close to Atlanta, so I could get into Buckhead, but I lived in Cobb. And after living in Cobb for a period of a few years, and it was time to buy a house, I decided that Cobb County was where I wanted to live. And that's what drew me to the community. It's safe. It's a community where we all have a stake. We all have a voice. We all help each other. We're all proud to be Cobb residents. And I wouldn't have it any other way. My children were born here in Cobb County, in hospitals in Cobb. And this is where we're going to call home until I'm not here anymore. So hopefully that answered your question, Fran.
And we have a hand raised, Micah.
Good evening. Judge
Hi,
Hill.
Micah.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
So I'm an educator on the South Cobb end of the county, and being in Cobb for the past 5 years with the students that I serve, a lot of them do not know, like I heard mentioned earlier, they don't know a lot of people in your position that look like us. They also only know negative things about the law. What, if any, perspective do you have on changing that perspective of our students, kind of introducing them, because ultimately they are the future of the county, and just the trajectory of how things have been going since I grew up in Cobb, Marietta City area. I have seen the changes throughout the years. So do you have a plan to kind of change the perspective of those students so that they can be future advocates and essentially grow up and lead Cobb in a way that you are?
Micah, let me tell you, the answer is yes. I live in South Cobb. This is my community. I moved from Smyrna to Mableton. This is home. I have a duty to students here in South Cobb, just like I have a duty to students in North Cobb, East and West Cobb, and the city of Marietta. It is my responsibility to make sure that I reach out and meet them where they are. Come and talk to them and let them know that every experience with the judicial system doesn't have to be a negative experience. I hinted towards mentoring programs. That is something that I am very interested in doing. Just having an opportunity to speak to young girls, young boys, and talk to them about things that come up in life that help with self-esteem. Whenever I go out to career days, and quite frankly, if you ever want me to come to a career day, all you have to do is ask. I have done that since I was a lawyer. Again, it's something that I take great pleasure in doing. But I will show up. I will talk to them at a career day. If you want to have a separate program, I will come in and talk to them. There are programs that other schools have that, quite frankly, South Cobb schools could get connected into as well, where you would come to the courthouse and actually put on a mock trial, and I can preside over that trial. There are so many things that can happen, and I am telling you as we sit here today that I'm committed to working with you and anyone else to make sure that it does happen.
Thank you. I will definitely look into having some of my students come and do that mock trial. I teach science, but I'm a teacher leader. So I'm working to expose them to as many opportunities as possible, because they unfortunately aren't afforded those opportunities based on the situations in which they live.
What level? What student?
Middle grades. Middle school. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and so with middle school, that's really instrumental. And I do spend a lot of time talking to middle schoolers during career days. And I always use examples with them to show them how just the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong decision can have a lasting impact on their lives. And I talk to them about real life situations that I've dealt with. And I talk to them like I would talk to my children. So there are opportunities for us to make that happen. And again, just reach out to me. That's all you have to do is ask.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. And we have another comment that Sylvia said, unfortunately, I do not live in your county or state, but based on your journey, I feel you would be a welcomed addition to the bench in this role. So just some encouragement from the audience.
Thank you, Sylvia. And thank you for joining today. You might not live here, but you may know somebody in Cobb. Spread the word.
Most definitely. So on that note, seeing no other comments or hand raises. We would definitely love to continue this conversation. You all reach out to Judge Hill. We thank you so much for joining us and having this opportunity. We have recorded this. It will be shared with the rest of the community members that could not have made it. I know people are tuned in on Facebook Live as well. So that is really exciting. And Camille, final thoughts?
That's all. And just, we're very grateful to have you share. And even for the audience members, it's a lot of influencers and a lot of community leaders who joined in on the call today from different organizations that we may have membership in, as well as how Micah spoke. She's an educator. We have Teachers of the Year on this call. So it's just very exciting just to see, you know, the people rallying around and just wanting to be engaged and learn more. And really, you've given us a lot of perspective. Honestly, I didn't know a lot of what Superior Court judges were in charge of. And I also didn't know that, you know, if you're elected, that you would be the first African-American in this seat, which for Cobb County, I'm not surprised, but it's something to know, and it is something to be proud of for you even sticking yourself out there and to run. And so we're grateful that you accepted this invitation to come speak to some of our network and some of our friends and family members. And thank you all for tuning in tonight.
Thank you all again for the opportunity. Please spread the word, get folks out to vote. And I look forward to having an opportunity to seeing each of you again. Just reach out. You've got my information.